And that's what it looks like. Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today, I want to show you how to make a 1909 fire kindler. Stay tuned. After the American Civil War in the 1860s, there was an increasing urbanization, and more people moved into cities, and more people were moving out of the country, of course, as a result of that, and they were using cook stoves. And they would also use things like kerosene to start their campfires and their cook fires. Well, because of that, there were often explosions or house fires where the kerosene would run out of the stove or down onto the floor and would cause some real problems and even burn houses down. Because of these and other issues, many inventors started to search for ideas of how to make a handy fire starter, especially something that someone could buy, could be easily lit with a match, and then just placed inside of a wood stove or in a campfire. It was also a way for them to make some extra money. And even though they weren't sold for a whole lot, you could buy a whole pack for maybe 25 cents, yet they did make things more convenient. And so what we're showing you today is something that somebody invented, goes clear back to at least 1909. I think you're going to like it, so stay tuned. The first thing you're going to need is a pair of pliers. Needle nose pliers work best. Some sort of soft, malleable wire. Now, this is Vietnam era tripwire. So obviously this isn't from the early 1900s, but it's easily available and it works really well. It's soft and easy to work with. You're also going to need 6 pieces of wood. Now this is just number 2 yellow pine. It is a 1/2 inch thick this way, 3/16 thick this way, and roughly 6 inches long. And you're going to want 6 of these. First of all, you need to take a length of the wire, and you probably only need maybe 12 to 16 inches, something like that. It's just sort of a guess. It doesn't have to be a lot of wire, and you want to clip that. You're going to need 2 of these. Next, we're going to take this wire and we're going to fold it in half like this. And then we're going to start with the first stick and the flat side, and we're going to come up just a little bit from the end. So maybe an inch or 2, something like that. And then you're going to take and you're going to twist this. You want to do this about 3 times. So you can see we've got a little bit of a twist right here. It's just a little bit of a standoff, and that's really important. The next piece goes right next to it. Slide it right in there. Again, just like this. Pull that nice and tight, trying to keep them as equal as possible. Pinch that really good, and then you can twist. Now, if you don't get this tight enough, you can always use the pliers. But be careful with really soft wire like this that you don't over twist it. Alright, we're going to do that to all 6 of them, and I'll get back with you. When you're done, you'll have something that looks like this. They're wired together, and we have some still out here at the end, so that's important. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side, and this is where these pliers come in really handy, because once you get it finished on one side, it's a little harder to twist. And so we may need to use the pliers. So we'll slide this on here, again, about the same distance. And then we're going to go ahead and twist it. You want to put about 3 twists in there, roughly. And then it's good to take the pliers and grab it right next to the wood. And very carefully put a little extra twist in there. And that will tighten it along the wood so it doesn't slide up and down. Then we just continue the process on out through the other side. The next piece of wood goes here. Make sure you pull this tight, like this. Pull this up against the other piece so the twist holds them apart. And then you repeat the process, and we do that all the way to the end. When you're finished, you should end up with something like this with our extra wires out here at the end. Now, what you want to do is you want to take and roll this into a circle, just like this. Trying to keep everything as level and as equal as you can. And notice that we have a twist here and a twist here on our ends, and this is where we started. Now we're just going to take these wires and we're going to go around this last one to fasten it all together. So not difficult to do. Just pull it together like this and then repeat the twisting process like we did before. And we do that to both sides. And again, this is where the pliers come in handy. Try to get that last twist. Again, don't over tighten it with this really soft wire because you can break it off. but just make sure that it's on there nice and firm. Now you can either fold these wire pieces in, or you can just clip them off. Once you're done with that, these little pointed ends, just fold them to the inside. It's, like I said, it's very soft wire, so it's easy to do that. Next, you want a piece of brown paper. This is just from a grocery bag that's about the width of our wires, like this. And want to start here on one of the wood slats, and then go around at least one full turn, and then just kind of cut it off wherever it's convenient. Just make sure that it overlaps pretty well when you do this. So something like that. The next thing we want to do is we've got to glue the paper to these sticks. So we're just going to start here by putting some glue here, like this. Should we get plenty on there? Start here, get that on there, like that. Then we're going to put some glue on the other side here. And you can use any kind of glue you want. Of course, we don't have any glue from 1909 that is still viable, so we're just using some stick glue here. So once we get that done, just roll this around, try to keep it fairly tight. Roll it around, and then stick it together. Now you're going to want to let this dry for a little while to make sure you get good adhesion. We'll do that and get back with you. Now that that has dried sufficiently and is pretty well stuck on there so it's not going to come off, we need to stuff it with a little bit of Excelsior. Now, Excelsior is an old product, but it's still made, used for horse bedding and things like that. It's basically some chips of wood, real small, fine, longer pieces. So it's not sawdust, but it's called Excelsior. And you can buy this at Tractor Supply, Walmart, there's all kinds of places you can get this online. And this is really important. What we're going to do is we're going to stuff just one end with it, like this. And that's going to create a little bit of a plug, just like that. I'm going to stuff that in there so that it's kind of packed in there, and so that stuff can't just fall out the bottom. If you can't get your Excelsior tight enough, you might want to use a stick and pack it in there at the bottom a little bit tighter, just like that. Now, we've got a good bed of coals, and we have some melted pine resin here. I'm going to keep that, make sure that stays warm on the fire. We're going to take some of our Excelsior, and we're going to put a decent handful or so in this other pot. It's like this. Next, we're going to pour a little bit of this melted resin in with it. And then we're going to add some beef tallow. And a good mixture for this is about 1/3 tallow to 2/3 of the pine sap I've found from some experimentation. And this allows it to be more liquid, so it will flow better. All right, we're going to place this on the coals, and we're going to melt that down, and we're going to stir it up while it melts. Once the tallow is thoroughly melted, we're going to go ahead and stir the whole mixture together. So again, the tallow makes it much easier. Once you get it all stirred in, it makes it easier to mix, more of a liquid mixture. And we're trying to soak all of our Excelsior with this fluid. Now, of course, everybody knows that pine resin is very flammable, so you have to be careful. You don't want to do this over flames. But we want to make sure we get a good amount of that and let that soak in and stir it around real thoroughly. You could probably use lard for this if you wanted, but tallow is what they said they used. So you let this cool down just a little bit, and then we take our mixture with the stick. You could probably do this with a spoon, but I find that a stick works just about as good as anything. And then we're going to start putting it in just like this. And this is why you want to start off with putting a plug of some of the just dry Excelsior down in the bottom. This is nice and tight, so it can't fall out when we put that in there. We're going to go ahead and fill up this tube with the rest of that, and we'll get back with you. Now make sure when you're stuffing the Excelsior mixture in there that you do both ends, including the one that just had the Excelsior plain in there without any of the mix, so that both ends are sealed off. And you're going to end up with something that looks just like this. And now there's one more step. Of course, you want to make sure this is thoroughly cooled off before you do this next one. So what we have here is a double boiler, just an old pot that I got at a secondhand store, and a large can. It's got a pour spout on it if I need it. But inside, we have a mixture of mineral spirits, maybe 10% or so, and we also have some Gulf wax. So this can be found at any store. And all we're going to do is we're going to take, once it's liquid, and we're going to dip it in. It's like this. I don't have to do it a long time. Flip it over, let that dry out just a little bit, let it harden. Then we're going to do the other side. And now we're going to let it dry. Now to light this, it's pretty simple. You want to take a piece of the waxed paper and you want to tear up a nice little piece that you can easily light. So just like that, just pull up a piece, put it down in your fire pit, get it stabilized of course. We're going to be using some matches here from Logsdon's Garage, and if you haven't been to Nathaniel Logsdon's site, Logsdon and Company, he's got some fantastic gear, boots and clothes and all sorts of things that you can buy from him. Alright, so we're just going to get a match out here. Now you can light it at both ends if you wish, or just one, depending on how long you want it to burn. You can stick the match inside that side right there and just let it kind of catch from inside as well. Now by my watch, it's just about 8 minutes past 3 o'clock, and so we're going to keep an eye on this. Now this should burn for maybe a half an hour or so, depending on how much you put in it, how quick it burns, how much the wind is blowing. But this is going to get your fire started in pretty much any kind of condition, relatively windproof. And like I said, once you get this going, it's just going to burn and burn and burn. You can put damp wood on it. It's going to be great for your outdoor adventures, especially for your vintage camping. Now I'm going to be putting some links in the description box below where you can purchase some of the items to make this. And do make sure that when the fire is over, that you pull those thin wires out and don't just leave them in your fire pit. There's not going to be a whole lot left. They're going to be pretty soft and thin, especially after the fire has had its work on them. But make sure and go ahead and pull that out of your fire, because again, we want to keep our environment clean. All right, we're about 10 minutes in, and now here we are at about 20 minutes in. And you can see, again, still lots of flame. And here we are at 25 minutes in. And we've still got flame. Now it's about gone out. We've had a lot of wind, but this is a fantastic little fire starter, as I said before. And then all we have to do when we're done is just fish out the little bit of wire that might be left over, of course, from burning. So there's one of them, and then the other one is right here. I'm just going to throw them away. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little adventure into the past and a fire starter that was invented well over 100 years ago. I hope you give it a try, that it works well for you. We got about 25 minutes of fire out of it. Would have been longer if the wind hadn't been blowing so much. But again, I think it's a great thing. I really enjoyed using it. I've enjoyed making them, and I think you will too. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll also find our waypointsurvival.com link. And this is where you can sign up to take survival and bushcraft classes at our beautiful training facility in Southern Ohio. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.